Let me begin by warmly welcoming you to this session on Psalm 44 and the book of Job, God on Trial. We're really pleased today to have a wonderful speaker. But before I get to that, let me just quick, for those of you who are not familiar with the Oxford Interfaith Forum, this is a forum that tries to leverage on the status that Oxford has, of course, as both a university and focus on education. The Interfaith Forum is very focused on interfaith and its role in education. And it also tries to tap into a very multidisciplinary perspective. So the talks that we organize occupy a range of theological, scientific, educational, historical, and a whole range of different disciplinary views that come in. My name is Aaron Maniam. I'm one of the recently appointed senior fellows of the Interfaith Forum. I'm a Singaporean policymaker from before by profession. Recently, I joined the Blavatnik School of Government as a fellow of practice looking at technology issues. But apart from my professional interest in technology, I also have a deep and abiding interest in interfaith work and interfaith dialogue, coming from a country that is deeply multicultural, but also a family, right, that combines Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist influences in a whole range of ways. So the Interfaith Forum has always held a really special place in my heart. But you're not here to hear about me. You're here to hear from our wonderful speaker, Ignacio, who is very well known as an expert in Old Testament and Semitic studies. He's a professor of those disciplines in San Dámaso University in Madrid. And he's going to share with us today some of his thoughts on the topic of Psalm 44 and the book of Job. And I asked him earlier on, I said, what would you like me to say that's not in your CV that is going to be useful for this talk? So I will assume that all of you have read his CV. Which is extensive, wide as it is deep, as you will have seen. He asked me to mention two things, which I'll mention now. One is that during the COVID pandemic, he volunteered as a chaplain in a hospital in Madrid for a good amount of time, and he wrote up a little diary after that, of what that experience was like. I think diaries have a wonderful intimacy about them, in a way that big books about theology or ideas will not capture. And I'm looking forward, Ignacio, very much to seeing what that human intimacy will be like when you share it with us and link it to the topic of today's talk. And I know you've written also on the book of Job and the problem of pain, right, and the connections between the two. So I'm looking forward very much to how you will link those. So we'll have Ignacio speak for about 40 minutes, and then we very much will welcome questions after that. So Ignacio, without any further ado, I shall hand the stage to you. I know you have some slides to share with us as well. Let's get started, because I know you've got a good amount of material to share, and we're all looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Aaron, for this introduction. Good evening from Rome, where I spent part of my sabbatical year, this year, wonderful year of research. So good evening to all of you connected and online. And you're right, Aaron, I would like to start this lecture coming back to my experience in the hospital as chaplain, because taking care for the sick during those hardest months of the pandemic, I have to face suffering. I mean, I'm innocent suffering, pain, and death. There were so many patients that died in those weeks in front of me, who were alone. Remember, there was impossible to have people on the rooms, familiar people, and so the way away from family, and suffering and pain appear as a kind of contradiction. It seems that they are not compatible with a loving or good design, with a providence, with a divine order. And I'm a Catholic priest, but I recognize that I had to do a journey of knowledge during those weeks in my relationship with God, starting with an open question addressed to God. Why? Why suffering? Why pain? Why this kind of death in solitude? So asking to God, that was part of my reflection, and an ongoing reflection during those weeks in the hospital. Asking to God presupposes an ongoing, perhaps not always conscious, relationship between an I, myself, and a you with a capital Y from the very beginning of our life. I mean, someone is making me right now, and someone has given me, has created me with the desire of justice, of truth, of beauty, of goodness, and happiness. That's why suffering or evil is experienced as an injustice against an original, I can say an original covenant based on justice, the idea of justice, of goodness, of truth or happiness. It's experienced in this way, not only by the person that has encountered the historical revelation, that is the believer or the religious person that has known in history the face of God, but also by people who call themselves atheists or agnostics. Perhaps, for example, I mean, some days ago, I received a call from a very good friend of mine who told me about a common schoolmate that had passed away after a painful disease. During the wake of the deceased wife, the husband said to some friends, I quote, "The suffering of my wife during the last months is the best proof of God's non-existence." I mean, starting, so you can say to respond, I mean, starting from the fact that he is not a believer, this person, that the husband of this classmate of mine, you could say, why are you talking about God? What has to do God with the natural death of your wife? Instead, I recognize that there is an indelible link with the sense of justice, of good that makes us not to resign in front of what we could call a natural fact, that is disease or death. Okay, but let's go to the Bible and to our topic today. For Israel, the Bible, injustice suffered in its own flesh as a people, or the innocent suffering experienced by a singular person, we will see in the book of Job, was not an argument against God's existence, of course. That injustice and innocent suffering were a real question addressed to God. In this sense, Psalm 44 about the injustice suffered by Israel, or the book of Job as a whole, about the innocent suffering of a man, are good examples of this open question addressed to God. Because of the nature of the revelation in its history, Israel has lived injustice and innocent suffering in a dialogue with God, not like the husband of this classmate of mine. Because injustice and innocent suffering seems to be in direct contradiction with God's loving design on Israel, the before mentioned dialogue takes the form of a complaint, a lament, and especially, that's the interesting point today, a controversy. It is important to notice that this kind of direct controversy against God born or begins with Israel and the Bible. We can say that it belongs to the very nature of revelation, or better, it depends on the dynamics of the first revelation of God to Abraham. A personal relationship like this one, between a person or a people with a God, that arrives to the controversy is unthinkable in the Mesopotamian world, that is the Israel context, and literature. In fact, we have several theodicies facing the problem of pain in Mesopotamia and Egypt, but in them, we do not find a real controversy face to face between the one who suffers and his or her God, if it were the case. Of course, in these pieces of literature, there is room for a cry or a lament, but not in front of someone, with a capital S, who in a covenant has promised you defense, justice, and happiness, and have said that everything created what's good. It means that in Israel's experience, there is only one principle, God as good God, and there is no room for a battle with another main principle, that is evil. What we find in the Mesopotamian theodicies is the quest, okay, there's a real quest, to identify the cause or reason that has motivated the situation which the sufferer finds him or herself. But the cause or reason in a very material sense, because the world is a closed mechanism. I mean, the gods are just icons of the main pieces of this non-personal mechanism, where everything is mechanically linked. So it's a quest of the what is the problem that has motivated this error, we can say, this problem, the suffering. I mean, the person who suffers wants to understand what problem has motivated the reaction of the system and this problem of the suffering. It could be an unconscious deed, perhaps a line that I have trodden with my feet, but there is no room for a person or personal controversy with the U, capital Y, of a personal God. Okay, let us move to the Bible to identify the forms of this controversy. These forms are encompassed in the broader form of the legal procedures. So right now I share my PowerPoint with you. I go ahead. So we have two legal procedures in the Bible. The first one is the legal judgment in court, is the common one, that is in the presence of a judge. That is the mispat. It's called in the Bible mispat, and will be the juridical structure in a strictly legal sense. It is also called or recognized usually as a trial. It takes place in the presence of a judge. That's the difference with the other model, who is the one who uses the sentence between parties. The prosecution, that could be the same accuser or his or her lawyer or the public prosecutor, addresses the judge, imputing crimes to the accused, also present, and asking for an appropriate sanction for the offender. By way of a sentence, the trial ends with the punishment of the guilty. So I was saying that it is necessary to distinguish this widespread model, that is the judgment in court, which take place in the presence of a judge, from the other bilateral model we find in the Bible. There is the controversy, and it's called rib, from the Hebrew root rib, that is to strive, to struggle, to conduct a legal case, to have a dispute with. That is a controversy that takes place between two parties. It's bilateral, that have a previous juridical bond between them. Even if not of an explicit nature. For example, there is a juridical bond between God and the people. There is a covenant treaty, or for example, between husband and wife. When there is this kind of controversy in the Bible, there is also a juridical bond, that is the marriage contract. And in this model, the party that feels injured takes the initiative and addresses the other party with a demand for justice. And the fundamental intention, that's important, of the accusation in a writ between two parties is not a guilty verdict against the accused and the punishment of the guilty. The accuser seeks to convince the other so that he or she acknowledge his or her guilt and repenting ask for forgiveness, allowing the desired reconciliation. In other words, what is sought after is not punishment, but a right relationship with the other. The desire is that the accused should reform and live in a just relationship, not that the accused should be taken away in the name of some abstract principle of retributive justice. This type of dispute frequently occurs between people who live together and are linked by strong emotional ties. For this reason, the 611 is the family. That will be the family. And this is very important to understand this genre. It's literally genre. It applies especially to the relationship between husband and wife, or parents and their son, daughter. For example, the father, the son, or husband and a wife. And that's why, the nature of the covenant relationship established between the people of Israel and the Lord make it impossible to address any real tribunal capable of judging between these two parties when they are in a situation of mutual controversy. That's why God cannot, or Israel cannot, use the first model, the model of the court, the judgment, to go in a controversy against Israel or against God. This is the common model, the controversy, and the rib. So let's see the places in the Bible where we find this model, and let's understand better its typology. Okay, and the most common model is this rib is God as persecutor against Israel. As you can understand, this is the most common, because it's Israel, the infidelity of Israel, and the thing that is following God. So God as persecutor against Israel. And we have inside this most common model two roles, or if you want another two models, that is God as father against his son Israel. And you find it for example, in the first chapter of Isaiah. And the other one is God as a husband against his wife Israel. And you have three wonderfuls, among others, three wonderful examples in the chapter 2 of Hosea, chapter 2 of Jeremiah, and a very beautiful one in the chapter 16 of Ezekiel. And then the less frequent model, it's a strange model, is Israel as persecutor against God. As you can understand, it's a bit strange at first sight. And you find it on Psalm 44 and in the book of Job. It's what I'm trying to address today. So let's go ahead. This model, this literally genre, and the rib has 3 stages. And it's important to understand it because we will identify these 3 stages in the Psalm 44 and the book of also the book of Job, especially in Psalm 44. And the first is the initial time or foundational moment. So it's amazing that this is the starting point. It's a controversy. It's not, the starting point is not to begin from the very beginning saying what you are doing wrong. No. The starting point is to try to remember the beginning of our relationship between God and Israel, husband and wife, father and son. So in the beginning of our relationship, there was a time of happiness. I, God, or the husband, I was not an unjust and wicked God with oppressive laws. You received from me the benefits and goods. Everything was a gift. And from your lips, I heard, thank you, said God, or said the husband in this model, or said the father. I have heard from you, thank you, I love you, how lucky I am. So this moment is placed at the very beginning to avoid, it's very interesting, to avoid any excuse or apology. So to avoid that you are going away from me because you are oppressive with me, because in the beginning I was not happy, because your laws are not just, are not fair. No? That's why this moment is, the initial moment is very important. The second moment is the time of history or moment of infidelity. It begins always with an adversative preposition, but you, the beginning was, but you began to follow your lovers, your idols, to go away from home and to see to other things and other person, and I mean infidelity. And it's very interesting in this moment, among the time of history or moment or infidelity, what you have done in the past month, months, weeks, or past years for Israel, and that Israel has a problem of reason, especially when Israel, the woman Israel, the wife of the Lord, she thinks it's better to go after her lovers. It has a problem of reason. He's not aware that it's going against her happiness, for example. That's we are going to see it better. And the third stage and last one is the present time or moment of divine punishment. That is the thing of the today. I'm in front of you, face to face. It's time to decide. So come back to me, to your first love, or you will suffer the consequences of your action on your own skin. It's not a punishment in the sense, no, it's that the reality is stubborn, so you will suffer the consequence of this kind of irrationality, that you are going, you are following your lovers, and your lovers will betray you because they are not capable to give you what they are promising to you. So let's start with an example. I need to, before coming to Psalm 44, I need to put you a brief example of a controversy between God and Israel. The initiative comes from God. Is the chapter 2 of the book of Jeremiah, and you see the colors. The red one is means Israel, and the eye is the eye of God, and in green you will see all the facts, your devotion, loved, you followed me, all that, the facts you are judging. And then on purple you see the nation, the pagans, or the lovers, or the third part. In a marriage, in a relationship, there is the real love, and then the lovers, the third part, that could be the pagans, could be the nation, and so on. So the word of the Lord came to me, saying, go and proclaim in the heaven of Jerusalem, thus says the Lord, I remember, excuse me, I can understand. Okay, it's the same. And I remember the devotion of your youth, your love as a bride. So we are talking about the past. Then I remember this, the initial time. I remember the devotion of your youth, your love as a bride, how you followed me in the wilderness in a land not sown. I mean, in the very beginning, when you were in the wilderness, you experienced my love. I gave you everything because you had nothing in the wilderness, and you have a love, the love of, as a bride. Israel was holy to the Lord, the first fruits of his harvest. This is very interesting because you, Israel, my wife, you have to recognize that I have chosen you among all the nations as the first fruit of my harvest. All who ate, that is the pagans, the nation, all who of eat, the first fruit, that is Israel, were held guilty. Guilty. Disaster came upon them, says the Lord. So, second part, time of history or moment of infidelity. Hear the word of the Lord, or house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Israel. Thus says the Lord. And then arrives the second time. What wrong? Remember that it's very important, the starting point. So the moment of the history to say, of the initial time, to say everything was good in the beginning. So what wrong did your ancestor? I have colored on orange or yellow. It's Israel, but Israel in the past, the ancestor. It's always the I or we of Israel, and then the past of Israel, but it's the same. It's always Israel. What wrong did your ancestor find in me that they, your ancestor, went far from me? There is no excuse. There is no room for apology. And then they, Israel, went after worthless things. Worthless things means that idols. So it begins the festival, I can say, of irrationality, and became worthless. If you are following something like that, worthless, you became worthless themselves. And you did not use reason, or your fathers did not use reason. They did not say, where is the Lord who brought us up from the land of Egypt? We recognize in the past, in the origin of our faith, of our history, a God with mighty arm. And you are not asking, where is the Lord who led us in the wilderness, in a land of desolate pits, in a land of drought and deep darkness, in a land that no one passes through, where no one lives? I brought you, again, still in time of history, I brought you. Now we are moving from the desert, we're moving to the Holy Land. I brought you into a plentiful land, and then it's not your ancestor that begins to say you, Israel, in the history, but right now. I brought you into a plentiful land. I brought you not into the desert again. No, into a plentiful land to eat its fruits and its good things. In our relationship, there is always good things. But when you enter, you defiled my land, and you made my heritage an abomination. It has to do with the abomination of the idols. It's the language of the cool, abomination. And then you can see how all the leaders of Israel are inside this sin, this kind of irrational way. And here we can list four of these leaders. The priests, the religious leaders, did not say, where is the Lord? That is the goal of a priest, is to say, God is there, to point to God. They did not say, where is the Lord? Those who handled the law, the scribes, did not know me. It's a kind of paradox. So if you know the law, you know God. Those who handle the law did not know me. The rulers transgressed against me. The rulers is, the leaders, the kings and so on, the judge, have to keep the law. Instead, the ruler transgressed against me. And the prophets, that is the end of the day of the film, the prophets prophesied by Baal. It's incredible. And went after things that do not profit. And therefore, this is the present time. It is the end of this example. Present time, the moment of divine judgment. Therefore, once more, I accuse, this is the root, read of this model. I accuse you, says the Lord, and I accuse your children's children. So I need to put in front of you this more common controversy that is from God to Israel, the usual one, because when we right now are approaching the Psalm 44, we can, it's amazing, I mean, how it is possible that Israel can use the same model against God. That's the value, that's the wonderful thing of this Psalm 44. In this sense, is unique in the among the Psalms, not the only one, but could be the unique. It's really unique, no? in the Psalms. So here we have the initial time or foundational moment. I think I will have times only to present Psalm 44 and Job. Okay, initial time or foundational moment. We have heard, beginning with our ears, our God, that is, we're talking about the present time. Our ancestors have told us something that was that had happened in the past, no? That is the past. What deeds you perform in the days of old. So from the beginning, Israel put in front of God with the same strategy, the very beginning, to say, in the very beginning, you were on our side. You, with your own hand, drove out the nations, that is the pagans, partly. But then that is Israel in the past, the ancestor, then you planted. You afflicted the peoples, but then you set free. That's you in the past. And then this wonderful thing that Israel recognized, for not by their, so our in the present, but their, my ancestor, but not by their own sword did they win the land, not did their own arm give them victory, but your right hand and your arm and the light of your countenance, and for you delighted in them. It's wonderful if you remember Jeremiah, Jeremiah 2, your love as a bride, you were in love with me. Instead, Israel is said, you delighted in them, that is in me, in my ancestors. And I recognize that I conquered the land, not because my hand, my arm, but because of you. It's a kind of preparation for what is coming, what has happened right now with all my foes. So let's go ahead. We're still in the initial time, foundational moment, verse 4. Okay, you are my king and my God. It's very beautiful in this sense, because here you have the present again. So the psalmist is playing with the present and the past. The present and the past is someone who is writing right now in the suffering, and he's saying, you are for me, for us. You are my king or my God. I don't know you, God. What about me, Israel? If I'm still the first fruit of your harvest, but for me, you're my king and my God. You command victories for Jacob in the past, for Jacob. Through you, we push down our foes, the nation, the pagans. Through your name, we tread down our assailants. For not, excuse me, again, the present is playing between past and present. For not in my bow right now, the past and right now. For not in my bow do I trust, nor can my sword save me. But you, so that's me. It's very interesting, but because you have said what you have done in the past, my Lord, but also what I'm doing right now. It's not that I have changed. I continue to say that I do not trust in my bow, but in you I trust. But what about you? But you have saved us from our foes in the past, and you have put to confusion those who hate us, the pagan, in the past. Okay? And right now, again, this wonderful play between past and present, in God, we have boasted continually, and we will give thanks to your name forever. This is the the last point of these initial times. No? In God we have boasted continually, and we will give thanks to your name for it. That's me. What about you? Selah, that is break, pause. And then arrive the second time, the time of history or moment or infidelity. And it's amazing to read this kind of, this is unique after to read so many controversy or rips coming from God. It's a normal thing, a common thing against Israel. It's amazing to see Israel in a controversy against God. Yet, the preposition, yet, it will be a what? I mean, yet you have rejected us and evaded us, and you have not gone out with our armies. So right now, in the present of the psalmist, you are not doing this thing. So I'm not trusting on my bow. Instead, you have not gone out with our armies. You made us turn back from the food. What was the third one? The nation. And our enemies have gotten a spoil. And the interesting thing is that the problem of Israel is not the enemies or the foes. So the problem is God. What about you? So I'm not trusting on my boat. I don't trust it on my sword. I'm trusting on you. So you are the one who have to give me the victory. Why you have not gone out with our armies? You made us turn back from the food, and our enemies have gotten us full. You have made us like sheep for slaughter, and you have scattered us among the nations. You have sold your people for a trifle, demanding you no high price for them. It's amazing also to remember Jeremiah, that is Israel was the fruitfuls of his harvest, chosen among the nation. Instead, right now, you have sold your people for a trifle, demanding you no higher price for them. And then continue, you have made us the taunt of our neighbors, the derision and scorn of those around us. You have made us a byword among the nation, a laughing stock among the peoples. All day long, my disgrace is before me, and shame has covered my face. That is, it seems that God is not present on what's happening with me and my enemies and with me, but as background is always the relationship with God. At the words of the taunters and revilers, at the side of the enemy and the avengers. And still, in time of history, all this has come upon us, yet, very important, this point, yet we have not forgotten you or we been false to your covenant. It is very important because we are not in the point of saying, okay, obviously Israel is suffering, but we know very well that is has been unjust, is because of the infidelity of Israel. Now that's the what makes this psalm unique, no? Not unique, but really unique. All this has come upon us, yet we have not forgotten you or been false to your covenant. Our heart has not turned back, nor have our steps departed from your way. Yet you. So that's what I have done. What about you? Yet you have broken us in the haunt of jackals, and you cover us with deep darkness. And then still, if we have forgotten the name of our God, or spread out our hands to a strange God, would not God discover this? For he knows the secret of the heart. I mean, we're not saying that Israel is saying, oh my God, you have forgotten me, and God answer, of course I have forgotten you, because you have done this and this and this and this. No? Instead, no. He's saying, no. So I have not forgotten you, and you are God, and you know everything. So you know that I have not forgotten you. Would not God discover this if we have forgotten the name of our God? for he knows the secrets of the heart. Because of you, we are being killed all day long, and we are counted as sheep for the slaughter. And then I finish, and I finish then. And then this wonderful last page of the psalm that would be the present time or moment of divine judgment. And this time, so this is not the divine judgment, could be the human judgment of Israel against God. And then roast yourself. It's very beautiful because it's not the moment of kind of like could be in Mesopotamian world to say, well, excuse me, we're moving to another God. No, because they know very well God. They know very well this personal God, and there is a link of justice, of covenant, of love. No? That roast yourself. Why do you sleep, O Lord? It's very wonderful, very beautiful, this personal relationship. So God, rouse yourself. Why do you sleep, O Lord? Awake. Do not cast us off forever. Why do you hide your face, beautiful? Why do you forget our affliction and oppression? For we sink down to the dust, our bodies cling to the ground, and then the final verse, again, rise you up. So the end is not a judgment. As I said, I move to another God. I abandon you. I have reason. I have, in the sense, an excuse to go away. No, I need you. I know you. Rise you up. Come to our help. Redeem us for the sake of your steadfast lust. And this is the final word in Hebrew, has the hand. That is Hesed, the name Hesed with the pronoun of the second person. Your steadfast love, your love. Okay, I think I have down 40 minutes, and so I've prepared, of course, about Job, but it's very long. I have no Abram. I think it's time for the question, and perhaps for another time to go ahead with Job.
No, this is great. I think you've given us more than enough to ask you questions on, and I suspect there will be lots of interesting questions. This is fantastic. I had questions of my own just in case people needed time to think. But Sandy, you've already raised your hand. Can I ask everybody else as well? If you've got a question, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. That will put you right up on the screen and visible to the rest of us. So I'll be able to highlight your questions. But Sandy, let's start with your question, and I can save mine for later. No, that's wonderful, Ignacio. Thank you. And I love the fact that we've actually ended here with a sense of, of love and relationship and how that builds out of the doubt and the lamentation and the deep suffering in some of the texts that you explored with us. I want to thank all you for being here with us. I know we can't really applaud on Zoom. I suppose we could, but it would just drown out the noise. But we can do that. And there are reaction buttons if any of you would like to use them, just to express our appreciation to Ignacio for joining us. And you've now, of course, generated a separate topic for us. We'll make sure we do part 2 of this at some point. At the right time, we'll do a detailed study of the Book of Job with you. I wanted to just end by also reminding everybody that our next talk at the Interfaith Forum will be together with Professor Leslie Smith, who's Professor of Medieval Intellectual History here at Oxford. She'll be taking us on an examination of what happens when a medieval Franciscan consults the Jews, right? And what Nicholas of Lyra did in terms of imagining the temple. So I've put the link for that in our chat in case anybody would like to look at the online details. Please do sign up. We'd love to see you and continue this broader conversation that we're having, in terms of how different texts speak to each other and also how they speak to us and we speak to the text, in that whole process. But let's thank Ignacio again, and thank all of you also, for joining us. I know we're all in different time zones, so some of you are probably in a place where it's very early in the day. If you're there, then please enjoy the rest of your day. If, like those of us in Oxford, you're about to end your day, then enjoy that. Have a good evening and night, and we'll see all of you again very soon, either online or in person. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.